When we think about feminist movements, we often think of US-based white women's feminism. But in a country where roughly a fifth percent of the population is Hispanic, Mujerista theology has started to gain more popularity and recognition for its values and approach. Started by Ada Maria Isasi Diaz, a Cuban American theologian, Mujerista theology is a term that tries to exemplify the faith and the role of Hispanic women in the struggle for liberation. It comes from Hispanic women's attempt to join feminist movements in the US, the obstructions they face when they try to join them, and their commitment to bringing a Hispanic religious understanding to the struggle for liberation. Mujerista theology helps Latinas discover and affirm the presence and revelation of God in their communities and day-to-day lives. This means that while it is a way to study God's relationship with humanity, it is also kind of like a lifestyle because it is an invitation to be mindful of God in your lives. In this presentation, I will discuss Mujerista's three main characteristics: the use of solidarity as a liberation theory, an emphasis on lo cotidiano, and subjectivity. Before I start talking about solidarity as a liberation theory, I want to talk about what liberation theology and theory is. It is a Catholic movement from Latin America that seeks to rethink the role of the church in society and promotes the use of religion in favor of social justice. In the Jesuit tradition, this is similar to the preferential option for the poor. Under this theology, it is understood that the church works to liberate people from economic exploitation, fatalism, and sin with the goal of having communion with God. Isasi Diaz claimed that Mujerista theology is not just a reflection upon action, but a liberating action in and of itself. This offers Latinas a space to use their religion in their thinking and motivation for actions and the reason behind them. And because some of them lack formal education, Mujerista theology allows them to become organic intellectuals because this theology is based on grassroots movements and the day-to-day experience of Hispanic women. As a result of this theology's recognizing the social context of oppression, Mujerista theology argues that our liberation needs to include solidarity and mutuality. However, this solidarity is not just saying, I'm with you or I feel you. It is about a true dialogue between the oppressed and the friend, and the participation of these, quote, friends in the creation of strategies for liberation. The second point of Mujerista theology is the emphasis in lo cotidiano, a Spanish term that can be translated as everyday life or daily experiences. Mujerista theology emphasizes that the source of its theology comes from lived experience of Hispanic women and their ability to reflect on everyday life. Michelle Gonzalez, another theologian who has studied Mujerista, views lo cotidiano as the foundation of social systems and a door for expanding historically marginalized voices in academic reflection. While I have focused so far on Catholic views, Mujerista and its approach to common experiences has also been applied to Latter-day Saints practices. So let me tell you the story of Veronica, an LDS Latina who illegally crossed the border in the early 2000s with her kids to reunite with her husband, who was already living in the US. Throughout her journey, she encountered many difficult challenges, but highlighted how her faith gave her the strength to keep going. The Mujerista lens recognizes how faith was a critical part of Veronica's journey and how God materialized in those moments. It recognizes how faith and religious belief are called upon through daily blessings by God. This drive for lo cotidiano as an essential part of Mujerista theology has to do with the recognition of our shared experiences as an important part of our identity. Isasi Diaz says that lo cotidiano is a matter of life and death, of who we are and who we aim to become, and as such, it cannot be objective. If it were to become objective or something like a norm or a principle, we would be romanticizing the daily shared experiences, and we'll be pretty much throwing away everything that Mujerista theology stands for. Lastly, Mujerista theology has to be subjective. This emphasis on lo cotidiano and solidarity as a liberation theology means that because of our shared experiences with God are different, our religion needs to reflect that. Mujerista theology argues that Hispanic women's experiences and their struggle for survival is this theology's source and starting point. So while the Bible is part of our lives and faith, Mujerista theology will argue that our experiences guide us in the way that we interpret and use the Bible. So let's take a few seconds. Do we read the Bible continuously? Do we use it as a source for guidance for every single moment of our lives? For some, the answer might be a resounding no. According to Mujerista Theology, the complexity of the Bible may be the reason why it's hard to use as a guide. If we examine our lives, we pray to God and the saints for help and advice. So our spiritual lives already have that de facto component of subjectivity, which removes the need for having someone in the middle to interpret the biblical text. To conclude, the idea that Mujerista theology brings of grounded theology on daily life and shared experiences is not as radical as it sounds. Pope Francis has said that theologians should not settle for a desk of theology and that the church needs to be seen as a field hospital. It is a call to go out and preach the good news, but to be successful and convincing, it needs to take into account the shared experiences of people that it is impacting, which is what Mujerista theology highlights.